Welcome to Tyrompers No Limit Podcast.
What is up, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls? Welcome to Tyrompers No Limit Podcast. This is episode number 53. And guys, we're always fired up. But today, guys, we got a special guest in the house. This is a man and a legend right here. He's an author. He's a coach. He's a hero. He's a veteran. He is the owner and founder of DJC Solutions. They help and uplift professionals, veterans, organizations, and individuals to optimize performance and affect sustainable change. This is a man that literally everyone I've talked to that's ever interacted with him raves about his kindness, his willingness to help, his authenticity. This is a man that's on a mission to evolve your trajectory through personal and professional development. My brother, my friend, this is a man that we were about ready to hit record, and then we just got stuck chatting for 30 minutes before the podcast. I'm like, okay, we got
30 minutes.
My brother, Dave Closson, man. Welcome to the pod, bro.
Hey, man, it is so good to be here. Been following your journey for a while. Always love talking to you. And apparently we can talk for 30 minutes and it only feels like 4.
That's true, man. Well, dude, I owe a lot of gratitude to you because you're a guy that I've looked at and I've kind of emulated to see. You've been in this space for a long time and really crushing it on a lot of these things. I know you're a busy guy, so I appreciate you taking out the time. For anybody who might, follow me on Twitter and not know quite a little bit about you, can you just kind of give a backstory, man? Tell the people who you are, what you're about.
Yeah. So backstory. First off, I was born at a very young age. Yes, I'm practicing my dad jokes. I'm not a dad yet. But so quick backstory. Born and raised Springfield, Illinois, went to high school with the one and only Annie, who we'll chat about here in a little bit. Joined the Illinois Army National Guard. And when I was a college student, I was a junior, got deployed to Iraq, which I'll unpack how that changed my journey as well. I went from that to being a university police officer, jumped into the alcohol and drug prevention field because getting upstream is where it's at. And I'll unpack that. I'm going to talk about a lot of stuff. I've got a whole long list of things I want to talk about, but now, yes. So I've got my own business and it's all about helping individuals, organizations, and states and communities reach that next level of excellence to create safe, healthy communities, to bring their A game and be at their best. There's a lot of different ways that I go about doing that. Everything from podcasting, books, training, facilitation, and also coaching and public speaking. But yeah, that's the Cliff Notes. We'll leave it at that right now.
I love that, brother. And thank you. And you're just a guy that you do so much. You're in a different state every time I talk to you. You're always flying around to these conferences, speaking at these events. And I think you're impacting so many people. And I think you have a powerful story. So can we maybe unpack some of that? As I know you and my wife are really good friends. Annie has so many good, Dave was just always so friendly to everybody, and I always heard that about you, that you're just the nicest dude in the world. So, you go from that in high school to Army National Guard, and then boom, you're deployed to Iraq. Can you kind of talk about that experience and kind of what you learned through that?
Yeah, definitely. So actually, I was just in Louisiana sharing this exact same story, but the military ethos runs deep in my blood. I'm a 3rd-generation veteran. My dad's a Vietnam veteran who, side note, I don't know if you realize it, but he got struck by lightning on top of Hamburger Hill. He was a Ranger team leader doing the recon before the Battle of Hamburger Hill and got struck by lightning, literally.
Get out of here. He was okay through that?
Yeah, well, temporarily he was paralyzed for a while, had to get medevaced and all that wild stuff. But if you ever wonder why I might be a little bit different, it's because his genes got fried. Then he passed them on to me. So that's my excuse. That is always my go-to.
Different is good, brother. It's boring when we're all the same, man. So
right.
Different is good.
Right. So military, yeah, I joined when I enlisted. I went Army infantry because I love being in the outdoors, love hunting, and well, my dad is my number one hero, and he was an Army Ranger. So wanted to follow in his footsteps, yet at the same time create my own path as well, as best as you could do that. Got deployed to Iraq when I was 21. I was a junior in college, and quite frankly, I feel like I just finally figured out how to do this whole college thing, how to study, because I didn't know how to study college-wise. I finally okay, I got this. I could do this. I know what I'm doing. And then boom, nope, sorry. Hey, Dave, you're going to Iraq. So I went from juggling studies, lab reports, all that fun stuff, and I say that, politely, to walking the streets of Baghdad. Our first day in country, we had some guys get injured from a mortar attack. My first week out on patrol, I got blown up by an IED, or improvised explosive device. And at the time, I didn't know it, because back in 2005, traumatic brain injuries weren't talked about.
Mm.
And I literally had to go back out on patrol that same day, then also that very next day. Yeah.
You were concussed then?
Yes, blacked out for just a little bit, and I was driving the Humvee too.
Dude, that is wild, man. Holy.
Yeah, yeah. It wild times, and that was the most significant explosion. Had several other near misses. We took small arms fire pretty much every day. I mean, back in 2005, when we first got there, they were like, "Y'all, your sector's the wild, wild west." So saw a lot of combat. I was also on our company sniper team as well, so ran those missions. But fast forward to when I came back from my deployment, I got back actually it was May of 2006.
Hmm.
Had I not been deployed, I would have graduated with my bachelor's that May. I got back just in time to watch my cohort, my friends, walk across that stage and graduate. When I jumped back into school that fall, I didn't have any friends. I didn't know anybody. And I was struggling. I didn't know it, but I was struggling with post-traumatic stress disorder. I couldn't be social. I couldn't connect with my fellow students.
And is
I
that
felt
because
alone.
you'd
Oh, yeah, yeah.
seen some of those crazy things, you're taking fire in combat, and then all of a sudden you're just transported back to college life where everybody's skipping around talking about the next party. It's probably very difficult to meet people there, right?
Right. So I was older age-wise, and then you factor in life experiences, the stuff that I'd seen during that year in country in Iraq. It was hard for me to relate, and it was hard for me to let myself feel emotions, like even be happy. I couldn't relax. I was always on edge. I didn't like going out and being in crowded situations as well. I had nightmares. It would just take a smell, or on a hot summer day, I walked outside and just feel that heat. Kind of like where you live, you step outside and just get hit with that heat.
Hmm.
That just takes me back right away. And would have just little anxiety as
Coming
well.
back,
So
do they offer any
yeah.
services for you or to help you kind of deal or cope with these things? Because I gotta imagine, I mean, I can't imagine how you go from that stress every day and then
Mhm.
seeing friends and brothers and experiencing a lot of the things you
Mhm.
experience, and then to just come back and you're dropped off. Are there services or anything for that?
Back when I returned in 2006, post-traumatic stress was talked about. It was known about. Traumatic brain injuries didn't really hear about them, but PTSD, it was still at the time, we consider it like a newfangled diagnosis.
Mm.
It's been around for a long time. Call it shell shock, battle fatigue, soldier's heart. It's been around. Folks were talking about it when we got back. I may have been screened by like 3 or 4 questions when I came back to see if I had it or not, but nothing substantive or really effective.
Mm.
Now, there's so much more out there, more research, more programs, more understanding, more awareness, that the troops coming back do have access to a whole heck of a lot more. With the caveat though, stigma is a son of a, I don't know if you got a bleep button there, but stigma is still tough. It is still tough for everybody to go get help.
Yeah, and especially for men, it seems like that's even when Annie and I'm first to admit it, we've been to counseling several years back, and there's a stigma around that. Like, do I want to admit that I need help? And that you kind of learn from society programs, you right, that well you're a guy, you just got to grin and bear it and put your head down and get through it and work harder. And I think there's a reason guys are 4.5 times more likely to commit suicide than women. Like women will seek help often, where men just kind of grin and bear it until it's too much. And so I'm glad to hear there's more services like that, but it sounds like we can still go a long way.
Yeah, absolutely. And I got to tell you, a couple of weeks ago, I was at my normal routine physical, which if you guys don't go for a physical every year, do it. Annual physical. Health is there. But anyways, total sidebar. I was sitting there and I felt myself not wanting to share about my issue. Like, oh, my gut's been kind of doing this weird, funny thing right now when I eat cruciferous vegetables. I don't know what's going on. I didn't want to talk about it because my ego, my pride, like it felt heavy. It felt just made me tense. Like talking about, oh, I might not be rock solid. Something might be wrong, like weakness. It's still there. It's always gonna be there. Yeah. It's like, what am I doing?
Always battling that ego, man. That's
Yeah.
crazy. So then when you go back to college then and you're still there, how did you kind of cope with that, or what was your coping mechanism instead of therapy and probably some of these more healthy things that we could have done, right?
The exact opposite. I drank. And I mean, a lot of folks can picture college environment. What's a good way in air quotes, I should have done that, to connect with, to meet students? Drinking. Unfortunately, the environment, the culture encourages that. And so coupled with that, me wanting to connect to my students, to make friends with the other students, I would drink. But also what I noticed is that when I drank, I could let loose. I could finally relax enough to crack a smile, to feel like I was having fun. And then I would go home and I would sleep. Alibi, now I know it was terrible sleep. But I thought like, oh, hey, is this the key to me being normal? Is maybe this is it? And yeah, I drank a lot to the point where my nickname became Party Dave.
Man, I'm
Party Dave.
Probably a good thing I didn't know Party Dave back then, because you might not be alive right now if we knew each other.
True story. Yep.
Yeah, I do think I tweeted that a little while back, man, how I think it's really upsetting to me as a parent now that we just drop our kids off at 18. And I remember my parents dropping me off. I'm in a co-ed dorm. There's literally girls across this, like, and it's just booze is everywhere. Everything we talk about is the next party. We're playing power hour. Everything is alcohol. And it's like, it just doesn't make sense that society says like that's normal. We're kind of setting people up to become alcoholics and to become a lot of these things, right? Like it's so normalized that that's just what everybody does, I guess, and I don't know, man. I don't really know the solution around it, but I know it's troubling to me to think about dropping my kids off someday and saying, I guess go get blackout drunk 4 days a week. So that's what everybody does, like it's just, it's wild, man. So
prevention is the solution. We'll come back to that though.
All right. We're going to get to
the solution.
I like that, man. We'll get to a solution. Stay tuned, guys. We're going to get to a solution.
Right.
So then how long do you kind of go through that phase, Dave, where you're Party Dave and you're just kind of, hey, I don't want to feel things,
Like me going back here mentally right now to vulnerability, like you'll probably see me on the video, like I get tense because it still is just so real. I would say 2006 when I got back really kicked off the dark era of my life, and really until probably 2009 I didn't start trying to make any changes. Now 2009 was when I started to like, I need to make a change. And I tried for several years. And honestly, now it's 2022 and in January 2023, I'll hit 3 years completely sober. That's a long time span to be working on yourself.
Congrats, man. I think that's why you're at the spot you're at. I think a lot of people, unfortunately, hit those rough patches and they never take that next step. I mean, I think about the dark periods in my life too, after divorced, and I drank 5-6 days a week on a good week. There's some 7-day weekers in there too. And, it was a really dark period. And I'm thankful and grateful for the couple people in my life that stepped in and really helped me start to take those steps back. Did you have anybody in your life that kind of stepped in and helped you make those change? Or what was that moment where you kind of said, man, I can't keep going this way,
So I had loved ones and friends that they didn't really know how much I was struggling. My party friends loved Party Dave. And at that time too, the friends that had known me before, like Annie, we had moved away. We didn't live in the same town. So our interactions were like text messages, phone calls. I kept everything closed off. And at that point, folks had no idea how I was struggling. And really the biggest light bulb moment, the biggest, like it even made like my eyes sweat, aka cry a little bit, was I went through this coaching activity. It was a large group and it wasn't like an actual coaching session. It was, hey, I did this at this great conference and you guys want to try it? Let's see how it goes. So I'm sitting around with a bunch of professionals, like, okay. I'm over there like, dang it, guys, oh my gosh. And what it was is, and this is one of my favorite because it hit me so well, is you take 2 minutes, write down all the words you would use to describe yourself when you are at your best. So like organized, disciplined, I'm clear, I'm driven, whatever those words are. 2 minutes, boom, you write them all down. And from that list, pick your top three. All right, so you circle your top three. Then, what's keeping you from being those things, from living those things day to day? And for me, boom, right in my face, no way around it. It was alcohol. It's like, oh, shh. Where's that? I'm gonna need that beep button.
Shout out to my boy Alex. He can edit.
Okay.
it.
Okay.
Curse, we can edit. Actually, I always say I keep the podcast pretty PG, man. But we got some people that you curse on. It's okay, man. You can say
Yeah. Okay.
But
yeah.
One thing I want to hit on there that's really hit me really hard when you said that is everybody loved it. Your life of the party, Dave. And it probably, if you talk to people from that time period, they would say, oh, Dave was like the happiest guy in the world, right?
Yep.
And I think people would describe me that same way when I was living in Chicago in the city, always party, a life of the party, standing on the table. Let's do another shot. Tyler's like the happiest guy in the world. But what people don't really realize is when the party ends and you're alone the next day, man, I mean, there's a lot of days where I didn't want to wake up. I didn't want to keep going, and it's, you mentioned a lot of the people around you. We have a good way as humans. It's just, I'm fine. And I think it's a good opportunity to check in on people sometimes and just ask, hey, you know what? I know you're telling me you're fine, but how you really doing? And to stay involved in community more than just kind of these surface level relationships. Cause hopefully we can be there for one another to help notice when people are in those times and get them out quicker. Right.
Yes. Be an active listener, not just listen to respond, but listen to see what is not being said or what is being said in addition to the words itself. Be that deep, reflective, active listener.
Yeah, that's a cheat code for marriage too, there, guys. Which we'll get into marriage. Right? That's a cheat code right there, man.
Yep.
So now you kind of that hits you, right? You're in tears. You kind of, hey, man, alcohol is a pretty big problem. So where do you go from there? And what are you doing at this time frame? Are you a policeman at this point, or where are you at?
This time I'm actually out of law enforcement, working in prevention.
Okay.
And when it comes to my time as a police officer, so there was that time from 2009 till now where I would cut back on my drinking. I would try to make a change, but I didn't ask for help. I didn't create any systems. I just knew I needed to change because I was sick and tired of not being happy. And so because I didn't do all those things like reaching out for help or have any plan, I would find myself drifting back in. It's like when I was a police officer, I didn't drink when I had to work, took that very serious. But then on my nights off, I'm a single guy, small town. What am I going to do? Well, I don't want to sit at home alone. So I would go out, and next thing you know, I would binge drink. I would drink till I blacked out, and it would be sort of a yo-yo, a journey, like that same journey. There were times I moved to Colorado. Hey, fresh start. Awesome. Nobody knows me here. I don't have to fall back into Party Dave ways, but I kept getting pulled back in. And one of the big things that I struggled with when I was early on in prevention, struggling with my drinking, was actually, I'll say two things that I really struggled with. If I admitted I had a problem, then what would that do to my professional reputation as a cop or even working in prevention? I felt that there was that stigma there. Like if I said, hey, I need help, would I be blacklisted? Would I, be pushed aside in the field? And that's something as there's more awareness around recovery, that creating recovery-friendly workplaces. With my wife working in the hospital, the impact COVID has had on the ER nurses, doctors, and then all throughout the hospital too. That's not an environment where you could come forward and say, hey, I have a substance use problem. I need help. But the stress, the mental, emotional, like I'm totally getting off on a rant, a little sidebar here too.
That's a good point and a topic that I think, as humans, man, we're all trying to figure it out as we go. And, sometimes, it'd be a great thing to be able to, like, me and my wife talk about this a lot, Annie, it'd be great if mental health was talked about more and people were just felt free to say, just not feeling it today, man. Or I'm struggling with this thing, and we all struggle, but it's just human nature. I think I always joke that you go to Sunday church and you snap the happy family photo, but then the rest of the week you're like miserable, but you're going to post that on Facebook and say, we have this really happy family, and it's so much better. And I think you probably know now that you coach people too, dude, everybody has these they want you to think they got this perfect life pictured, but dude, we have demons and we have things we're battling every single day and all the time. And so it's awesome to me to be real and to just say, even have to have that with my wife now to say, I'm having a struggle bus day today for what I don't even know why. Like, it's just, I'm anxious. I'm grumpy. Like, I don't know why. I need more coffee. I don't know, but like to give each other permission to say that and to have a safe environment. And I'm grateful that you provide that to other people. And I want to talk about that more as we kind of journey through where you're at. But I think that's important to highlight on, right?
Absolutely. I got to finish your question too, by the way. I got us on a sidebar rant.
This might happen a lot, by the
way. Right. Sorry, listeners. So to get back on track, where I was at in that time and space, working in prevention, still struggling with my drinking when I had that just moment where it was right in my face. I couldn't deny it. I couldn't avoid it. And that actually brought me back to one of my biggest principles now is you've got to live by example if you want to lead by example. I was not living by example, yet I was still training, still preaching prevention and making healthy choices around substance use. I was a hypocrite. And that just didn't sit well with me. And yeah, you always hear that you got to lead by example. That's great. Okay. So does that mean when you clock in at work, all right, game on, I'm here to lead by example. When you clock out, you're going to go, who knows what? People are going to be able to see through that. You got to be authentic.
Yeah, there's nothing more important than being authentic. I think for your own peace of mind too. I'm a natural born people pleaser, and I always say I'm a recovering people pleaser because for about
same here.
Yeah, for 34, 35 years, I literally would base my life on, do people like me? I want to be liked. I want to be, and then you find yourself contorting. And I think, when I hear you say party Dave, it's like, I go back to those times where I was party Tyler to these friends. I was Christian Tyler to these other friends, going to church, trying to do this. I was poker Tyler to these other friends. I was, going on dates Tyler to these other, and it's just, to not, now I feel like I can be the same person no matter who if I'm around my preacher, I'm going to be the same me as I'm around my dad, my wife, whatever. I'm just going to be me. Right. And that's such a freeing kind of gift you can give yourself. And so it sounds like you started to figure that out and give yourself that gift. Right. And so what are kind of your next steps as you're working on that then, as you realize that? I love that. So for anybody who's not watching, it says live authentic. And then what was the strength and hope?
Strength and honor.
I love that.
Strength and honor. Yes. So that's my reminder. And actually, I got to talk about this too. So I was with a client, I was coaching him, and we were having this conversation, the people pleaser conversation. And he was worried that he would ruffle feathers if he was authentic, if he was true to himself, didn't want to offend folks and all that. But at the same time, respect is important to him. If he's not respected, he checks out or he disengages. And so we had to talk about that. And I kind of threw it back and was like, okay, well, what is respectful to the other person? Is it being respectful to them if you're not your true authentic self? Is it being respectful to yourself if you're not being true to you as well, if you're being fake? How is that respectful all the way around?
Man.
Yeah,
That's super. I think the greatest gift we can give each other, I say this to Annie a lot, is for her to actually know me and me to be
Mhm.
vulnerable and me to put myself in to just know
Mhm.
exactly who I am and be my true authentic self and vice versa. And
Mhm.
I think that's an amazing
Mhm.
thing. That's some great wisdom you shared with that guy,
Yeah,
man.
yeah. It's all, yeah. Lessons learned. Lessons learned the hard way. That's for sure.
Yeah. Are you
Yeah,
grateful? Can I pause here and just ask one
yeah,
question? Are you
yeah.
grateful when you look back on some of those dark times? And I'm sure in a lot of your coaching calls now, you get to kind of meet guys where they are, right? Or girls where they are and
Yes.
say, I've been there, so I can
Mhm.
empathize. And I've been at those low spots. And so do you kind of think that's almost a gift when you look back now?
I go back through my text messages from Sunday where I was texting somebody and I said that my superpowers come from my struggles. That's where I got them from looking back, from learning. And for like I'm getting chills right now, literally just thinking about how the adversity, the life experiences, that was God preparing me, crafting me, molding me to be who I'm meant to be, to do what I'm meant to do. Yeah, it sucked, but that was part of the journey.
Yeah, there's no testimony without a test. And I think
Yeah, right.
anybody when even one of my favorite authors, John Ortberg, and he says, God, give me mountain, because hey, that's
Mhm,
when we grow, that's when we learn, like you
mhm.
said, that's when we get shaped. So that's awesome, man. That's a good perspective I
Yeah,
think people can take
yeah.
away. If you're struggling right now, better
Mhm,
days are ahead, and you might be helping somebody right
mhm.
now by getting through your get through.
Yep, absolutely, absolutely. And for those Simon Sinek fans, I know you are, my why statement is my computer backdrop. And so it reminds me of it every single day when I turn on my computer to work, of why I do what I do. And that statement is to live and share a life of continued growth so that we may all overcome adversity and live a fulfilling life. That's why I do what I do.
That one hits, man. That one hits real hard. That's a really good why, man. For all you guys who don't know
Yeah,
Simon Sinek, we'll put his picture up here, and yeah, you guys need to check him out.
yeah,
He's a
yeah.
stud, man.
Yeah, drop a link in the show notes for him.
Yeah,
But start with why. It's where
that's
it's
right.
at.
That's exactly right, man. So,
Yeah.
and by the way, guys, I'm going to link everything Dave does below. Dave's everywhere, by the way. So you probably, I mean, from everywhere to LinkedIn to Twitter to
Mhm,
Instagram to YouTube, this
mhm.
guy's everywhere. So we'll link everything he
Ex-
does below. His
Except TikTok.
no tick. I'm not on TikTok. Well, my wife is on TikTok, so I'm supporting her on TikTok now. But I don't put out content on TikTok.
Yeah. All right. All right.
But anyway, yeah, you guys need to check him out. Everything he does, I'm so impressed with everything this man does. So, okay, as we keep journeying through, then I got us
Mhm.
off on 7 sidebars. So now, so getting back to okay, you feel this calling, you don't want to be a
Mhm.
hypocrite. What's the next step from there then?
Yeah. So I kind of just fell into a journey within. I started reading. I became very intentional about learning because I knew I needed to learn more. I needed to figure out what to do. I needed to gain that knowledge
Mhm.
for me. And I just read. And one of the one of the biggest books that had an impact in my life was, well, Brene Brown, all of her books about vulnerability and braving the wilderness, and the wilderness was within. And Party Dave had taken me so far away from my identity, from who I was. I couldn't even see that man anymore, that person. I couldn't even tell you who the real Dave Closson was. And so I had to figure that out. So I pulled out my journal. I did a lot of reflecting and a lot of just gaining clarity on who I was at my core. And then once I had a good vision of that, I then started to craft, well, who do I want to be? What kind of man do I want to be on a random Tuesday morning
Mhm.
when I show up to work? Just every normal day, not, hey, when I'm at the Super Bowl, this big high pressure event, just who do I want to be when I jump in the back of an Uber and I'm catching a ride to the airport? Getting clarity around that.
Mhm.
Once I had that clarity, then that helped me figure out, what do I want? Where do I want to go? What do I want to achieve?
Mhm.
Then I was able to figure out the how. And that's also now my coaching model that I use. First the who, then the what, then the how. So how are you going to get there? How are you going to achieve it? What's
Mhm.
the process? Yeah, that's a very quick breakdown of what I did. So hit me with your questions. I'm ready.
Yeah, that's huge, man. There's so many things. My head's going like a million different directions with that. I'd say, I think a big part of life and something that you really did so well and you do so well is to pause and ask yourself those right questions, right? And
Mhm.
how many people do I know or that we see? And I was there for 35 years. I was just kind of coasting through life. Whatever happens, happens. Well,
Yep.
I'm going to let
Mhm.
other people dictate my mood. I never think about these
Mhm.
bigger things. Who do I want to be? Why do I want to be that person? How do I want to respond in these situations? And taking ownership of I can craft a vision for my life and I can get there. If I'm willing to put in the work, I can go anywhere I want to go. But most people don't pause and think that. So once you kind of get addicted to self-improvement and learning and all these things, asking yourself the right questions seems like that's probably the most powerful thing, right?
Oh, yes. And my dad always talked about this poem that he remembered from high school. And it was, I don't remember the poem, but he just remembers the title. It's All in the State of Mind. And I never got that until I finally looked inward and started on my journey. And it is all in the state of mind. It really is. And guess what? You control your mind. You can rewire it.
Amen, man. I can.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I say all the time, I think like even getting in shape has way more to do with your mind than your body. It's like it's the
Hmm.
battle when the alarm clock goes off at 6 a.m. It's always won or lost in your mind. It has nothing to do
Yep.
with the physical. Once you tell yourself it's non-negotiable, I'm just going to show up. Might not be a 10 out of 10 workout, but I'm going to get it in. Nothing else
Yep.
matters
Yep.
once you solve that in your mind. But you got to ask yourself the right questions. And I do think
Hmm.
I'm going to segue into this. Watch how this
Yeah.
could transition, ladies and gentlemen. But I do think that's why hiring a coach or a mentor or
Mhm.
somebody like
Mhm.
yourself can really help unlock that and can save you
Mhm.
years and years of hey man, what you might have taken 3 years to learn and get out of your own
Mhm.
way and start and stop and all this. Well, guess what? Now you've put in that work and you can just instantly help people ask themselves these right questions, gain that clarity. And so can we talk a little bit more about your coaching now, what you do,
Yes.
and that sort
Mhm.
of process and some of your biggest wins and clients and some fun stuff like that, man, because I love getting into this stuff.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yes. Yeah. Whew. All right. Here we go. So, yeah, when it comes to coaching, to self-improvement, to development, like I said, I've got that three-step model. Now it's not 1, 2, 3. Spend as much time in each phase, each step as possible as you need to for that individual. But it really does start with your self-awareness, your understanding of who you are, your strengths, your growth opportunities. Once you have a good solid foundation of that, then you can build from that. But if you don't have clarity, how can you build?
Mm,
It's going to be a house of cards. You want to have that solid foundation, and that's going to be you,
mm.
because you are what's going to achieve those goals or get to that vision. And I like to actually use, Alex, feel free to edit here as much as you want. So I'm a Lumina Spark practitioner. Now, it's a personality assessment. You may be familiar with like Myers-Briggs,
Yeah,
True Colors,
I've done all,
Enneagram.
I've done all these, man. Enneagram, Myers-Briggs. I love these, man. They're great. They're
Yeah.
unbelievable.
So I'm about to blow your mind though. So I took those in grad school, and mind you, in grad school, I was still struggling with PTSD, my TBI, and drinking. But when I took those assessments like Myers-Briggs and Enneagram, and I forget what other ones I had to take, I'm sitting there in class with these other students who are younger, nothing like my world experience. And they're like, oh man, I am so a 5, or oh, I'm totally a blue. And I'm just sitting like, yeah, part of that fits me, but not all of it.
Hmm.
It just furthered my feeling of like not belonging, not fitting in, not being normal,
Mm,
because this personality assessment didn't quite capture me.
mm,
Once I got trained for Lumina Spark, I figured out why. So those assessments, those are a top-down assessment, meaning they're going to ask you questions about the 4 archetypes or the 8 aspects. From how you respond to those questions, they're actually making assumptions about your strengths, your weaknesses, and your qualities, and they're typing you, they're putting you in a box. They're saying you're this type. You're an INTJ, you're an Enneagram 7 or a 9. But it's because they're making assumptions. And that is why they put you in a box. They type you.
mm.
And sometimes it might really hit, other times it might not. But if you think about it, everybody's different. We don't all fit in the same boxes.
Yeah.
That's really not that effective or accurate. And
I always thought
so,
I was like on Enneagram a 7 with a wing 6, but partly a 2 and a 3. Like,
right,
that's how I
right.
felt. And I was like, yeah, some of
Yeah.
this really hits and I can see, I can apply
Hmm.
it, whatever. But I do agree with you. You have to take everything with,
Hmm.
we're all unique, right? So it's, yeah, that's a good
Hmm.
point you make.
Yeah, and with the other assessments too, their questions, they can be worded as a certain response is more desirable. Certain traits can be perceived as more desirable, which would then influence how you would respond. Or it's going to be a forced choice, meaning are you introverted or are you extroverted? Are you people focused or are you outcome focused? So you're forced to make a choice.
Mm.
Not that accurate.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I get passionate about this stuff because I mean, it really did when I took those in grad school, like made me feel like I'm sitting there like I don't fit in. And then it's just bam. And here's this actual like assessment. This is formal. This is official saying, yeah, Dave, you don't like, you're not normal.
Mm.
Like that just messed with my psyche even more.
Man,
But
that's I think
yeah.
a lot of school, I've thought about this a lot lately. This is a sidebar too, but like I think school tries to put people in boxes, right? And it's for good reason. They need people to kind of, if everybody was individualistic and doing what you and I did, probably the system would fall apart, right? So
Yeah. Yeah.
they need people to kind of fill in spots in these system. But
Mhm.
I do see that where I don't know, man. I never felt like I necessarily fit in with a lot of
Mhm.
these things too. I could mold and be a chameleon and make myself fit
Mhm.
into a lot of these things. But now that I'm kind of myself, I look back and realize, yeah, that wasn't really me, man. I'm a very outside the box thinker. I'm not like everything's black and white. I live in the gray, in a
Yeah.
lot of these
Yep.
things,
Yep.
right? And so
Yep.
I think you're probably a lot like that too. And I think school can make you feel like you're just, I remember just thinking like, taking the SAT test. I joke about this with Annie. She got a perfect score. Shout out to my wife on the SAT. She's a genius, right? And
Yes, she
so,
is.
and
Yep.
I'm not, right?
Yep.
Like I remember having ADD and taking that test. I snapped a bunch of pencils in half, and I'm thinking during this test, who's this freaking guy that created this or this girl? Like, how are they smarter than me? What are they like? Who are
Mhm.
they to say that this is the right
Yeah.
answer or not? Like it just
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
made me mad, right? Like, and I
Mhm.
always felt the same as you. I didn't really fit in that box, and so
Mhm.
I think that's a
Yeah.
powerful thing that anybody I think society actually rewards people that don't fit in that box to a degree, because then you're
Mhm.
kind of unlocked, man. You realize when you have that clear vision, you can go wherever you want, right? Like
Yep.
people thought I
Yep.
was crazy when I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna quit this high paying bank job to grow a Twitter following and run podcasts with people and do the things
Mhm.
I'm doing every day. But I had
Mhm.
that clear vision. It didn't matter if 99 other people told me it's not going to work, it's stupid,
Mhm.
it's whatever. I had the vision. I knew where I was going to go, right? And so
Yeah.
sounds like you kind of gained that clarity and you had that
Mhm.
vision. Did you have people
Yes.
telling you around you too at that time, just play it safe, brother? Stay as a cop, just do what you're doing. Don't go, did you
Ooh,
experience any of that
yes.
too?
Yes. So I'm gonna come back to that though. I'm totally hijacking your interview here.
Go for it, man. This is how I like to bounce
Yeah.
around everywhere,
Okay, okay, okay.
man.
So I'm gonna come back to Lumina Spark. What makes it like that's what helped me understand why those other ones like just hit me like in the gut is because they were making assumptions and trying to type me or put me in a box. Whereas so what Lumina does, rather than be a top down, it's a bottom up assessment. So it's gonna ask individually around 24 different qualities and then asking those separate of each other. So just people focus, not people focus or outcome focus. Individually puts them separate so they're not influenced by the other qualities. And it then builds up from how you respond to those qualities up to the 8 aspects and 4 archetypes. But then also it doesn't type you. Your portrait, your results are communicated in a splash. So you've got the circle that's going to have the 8 aspects. All the assessments use the exact same science, the exact same 8 aspects. But here, Lumina captures your persona, your personality as a splash, which means it embraces a paradox. You already said you're a chameleon. You could be introverted and extroverted. Lumina measures that. So you'll have how much you measured when it comes to being introverted. You'll have how much you measured when it comes to being extroverted as well. Clear down to the 24 different qualities. So it makes it more accurate, more comprehensive, and more dynamic as well. And that is why it is my go-to tool for coaching because it gives you better clarity of self because it's not putting you in a box. It's just here's how you responded. Here's your results. Here's who you are.
Hmm.
And all right, I could go on and on, but that's the biggest thing. That's what makes it so much different than the other assessments.
Hmm.
Okay.
I like that, man. Thanks for clearing that up too. That's huge because I would have never known that. So I appreciate that. And then,
Yeah.
so really sidebar question just on the coaching
Yeah.
too. So
Mhm.
people will take this assessment and then will you
Mhm.
study it before they do and kind of break down to them what it means and then help them gain clarity through that a lot?
Yeah, so my coaching process, once we agree on our coaching agreement, then they'll take the assessment, which is 144 questions. And from this assessment, you get a 41-page report that is from page one. The cover is tailored, customized personally to that individual. So you'll get that report. I'll give it to you and you get to read it, process it, and then our first coaching session will actually be an hour and a half long where we will go through that page by page and unpack it and just help you understand what the different things mean, what to look for, how to find those hidden gems, hidden treasures, looking for those amplifications, those suppressions as well. And I can get into all that stuff later too. But so that becomes a foundation. And the whole first hour and a half is just exploring that. And then from that, based on the individual, we can then use that to build, to grow. Because when you want to grow in a specific area, what better than to look at your toolbox? Hey, oh, I'm really strong in structure, in discipline, oh, and also logic. Cool. How can we tap into those to help you achieve your fitness goal or your financial goal? Where could you pull from these underlying strengths to help you achieve those goals? So it creates that toolbox. And there's a lot of different other coaching activities like the journey to composure that we can use for it as well. So it gives you a good picture of overextended, how you show up when you're stressed, when you're overextended. And this is a fun story. So my wife, she took this assessment as well. As a part of my training, I had to do some practice debriefs, is what we called it. And so she took it. And I had to lead her through a debrief, the hour and a half session to unpack it. And one of the other cool things is you can overlay each other's splash. When we overlaid in our underlying selves, we are oh so common, so similar. But when we're overextended, when we get stressed out, I go very people focused. She goes very outcome focused. So exact opposites. Now, that means we could be each other's worst enemies, worst nightmares when we're both stressed out, right? She's like, all right, let's just get done. Like, what do we got to do here? And I'm like, hey, how you feeling about this? What do you think? Right? Like,
it's good to know.
So good to know. We now we know that. And now we can be each other's best friends. So we built a house, stressful, dealing with the builders and stuff. And I like to joke, but this is what happened is I would take point, friendly people, person kind of thing. But when it came time to, okay, hey, builder, why isn't this fixed? When's it going to get fixed? I would tack her in and she'd take point from then on out and lean into her strengths.
That's amazing because I think a lot of times in marriage, especially where, this is a great topic too, where we both want the same, like I want me and my wife, but sometimes before we went to counseling and discovered a lot of these things, it's just that I'm a people focused person. She's, and so I'm trying to have these different conversations. We're both getting frustrated by it. I'm sure during a lot of these coaching sessions, a lot of light bulbs are just going off and people are like, oh, that's why I do that. Oh, that's why we do that all the time. And what a gift I think you help people to give themselves a gift to just take an hour and a half and focus on themselves and understand why they're doing things and gain clarity and a vision. I mean, guys, I can't tell you, I think, Zach Hummel was my first coach. Shout out to Zach. And I mean, I just stole from this guy. Like I literally paid him, like $1,500, $2,000 total. And like the amount of clarity he helped me gain to go in the directions I wanted with my marriage, business, finances, fitness, life, everything, was just worth, it couldn't put a price tag on it, And so I'm sure you see similar experiences where people come in, they're pretty maybe broken in a rough spot, right? And then you help them gain that clarity and then you see the direction their life goes off. And it's all from a small investment and an investment of time,
Yes. And I mean, it's like you're saying, it's a moment of clarity. It deepens your understanding, your clarity of self, but it's also, I call it a toolbox. It's your toolbox. It's your strengths. It is so empowering when you see somebody like, oh, wait, I can do that. Oh, I can do that. Oh, boom, like you just see that moment where like, I got this. This is
Yeah.
cool. Yeah, I am awesome. Yeah, I don't, yeah. I'm getting all just warm and fuzzy here. Gonna start hugging myself because I love it.
Yeah, if this one was in person, we'd be probably doing a lot of hugs, man. I've done
Yeah.
one in person with my mom, and we were giving each other a lot of hugs. So this would be probably similar. Well, I have like a
Yes.
million other topics written down I like to,
Yeah.
but one I do want to hit. You did get married last year, right? And so
Hmm. Hmm.
building the house together. I always call this the love section of the podcast, man. All the
Yes.
guys that are on in like really healthy, good
Hmm.
relationships. I always want to ask like your best advice. You're newlyweds, over a
Hmm.
year now, but dated for a
Hmm.
while. And what practical wisdom could you give to other guys out there who are maybe in marriages who, hey man,
Hmm.
it's not like this love fest. It's not like this great relationship. What would you tell a
Hmm.
guy that's kind of struggling in that department?
Yes. So caveat, this October, I'm not sure when this is airing, but October 2022 will be 2 years of marriage. So I consider myself still a newlywed, but I got a late start. I mean, I'm 39 right now and only been married for 2 years. I've been taking notes, been learning from others. So I do feel like I have a decent amount of knowledge, but I've still got a whole heck of a lot to learn. But for me, the lessons that I have actually learned myself when it comes to love and marriage, first would be dating, values-based dating. When I finally, like when I started to date my now wife, I took this new approach, values-based, rather than similarities. Oh, what kind of music do you like? What do you like to do for fun? What do you like to read? I looked deeper for their values. How are they living their life?
Hmm.
How were they showing up day in and day out? What did their behavior? What did that tell me about their character and their values? And there's the old saying from the finance guy over there: if the checkbook biography, you look at somebody's checkbook, you can see where their values are, their priorities are. Kind of
Hmm.
the same thing. So I took that approach, but then also, what really helped me a lot when it comes to relationship was first, this is getting real touchy feely, learning to love myself.
Hmm.
That self-love. And I'm not talking like narcissism or bragging, just loving who I am. And I could go down a rabbit hole here, which I'll save it for one of your upcoming questions. I feel like I know what's coming as well. But once I started to love myself and be the kind of man I wanted to be that I could love, looked at values-based dating, that opened the door to real love, real connection there as well. And those are my two biggest like aha life lessons learned when it comes to love and marriage and dating. And I gotta yeah,
Yeah,
I mean
it's
yeah.
super powerful, man. Because I do think that's like a lot of times, even us see people that will be divorced and then they'll just hop right back in, right? And they haven't healed, they haven't learned to love
Mhm.
themselves yet, and they kind of repeat the same
Mhm.
things. And I was on path to do that, to be honest. And so it wasn't until I connect with that deeply. I love
Mhm.
myself and who I am, and I'm comfortable in my skin to let Annie know who I am and not hide,
Yeah.
And I see you and your wife doing a lot of things together. Can you talk about kind
Mhm.
of the leadership that you
Mhm.
present? Because I think the guy sets the tone in the house, right? And dude, I'll be the
Mhm.
first to admit my wife is so much smarter than me, like in a million different topics. And this will be a kind of
Right.
emasculating, but if there's something needs fixed around the house, like she's an engineer, man, so she's doing it,
Mhm.
right? Like,
Mhm.
and she's great
Yep.
at things. But I do feel like as the guy, like I
Mhm.
kind of set the tone for the
Mhm.
house. Like when I'm like really dialed in and I'm waking up early, getting my workout in, I'm getting filled up, I'm full of gratitude, I'm
Mhm.
talking in these different, like my house kind of just whew, it ignites with
Yeah.
that. And I see a lot of times like you and your wife are working out, and I see on social media you're going for these
Mhm.
hikes. You have a very
Mhm.
outdoor lifestyle too.
Mhm.
Can you kind of talk about that and how
Yeah.
how you bond
Yeah.
through that, and how you kind of lead in your home?
So absolutely. So that is an area where I am very intentional about how I show up, but also trying to learn and still really figuring it out. During the first year, I actually talked to my dad and a couple other trusted men and was like, "Hey, help me get clarity on my role as a husband. What, like, help me understand, what does that look like?" And talking about exactly what you're talking about, how do I lead the house? I don't want to quote micromanage or be a boss, but
Hmm.
how can I lead with love? And throw in the Lumina, that my wife and I can be very opposite when we're stressed. How can I lead her? What type of leadership does she need? Is it, hey, get out of bed, drill sergeant approach? Or is it that kinder, softer, hey, I'm going to go work out. You want to come join me?
Mm.
So being just first, be aware, keep your mind open and be always learning and reflect back to asking yourself questions.
Mm.
My mornings, those are the things I'm thinking about. How did I show up yesterday? Did I bring my A game? Was I my best self? What impact did that have
Mm.
on my wife, on our family, on where we're going, as well as a family, as a household? But I'm still very much learning how to lead, but it all comes back to that. You got to live by example if you want to lead by example. And you were just talking about being on your A game. When you're rocking and rolling, you feel that radiate throughout your household as well. And how you show up is going to play a part. It's going to help shape the culture, the environment of your house. And I kind of lost my train of thought, so I'll hit pause. What do you got for me?
I think that's really good, man. I appreciate that too. And I think, knowing I do see some guys struggle where they take that drill sergeant approach, why can't you do this? Why can't you do that? And it's, you have to lead first and invite. I love how you said that. Like, I love lifting weights, but it's hilarious because like I've taken Annie twice to lift weights. She just hated it, man. She was so sore. And like, I look back, it was like, 5 years ago. And I'm like, you got to get deeper on the squat, like I just made it fun. She might like lifting more, but like she loves cardio. She loves going out and running, biking, hiking with me. We do active things a lot. So it's like, just inviting her on a lot of those things, right? It can be leadership. Like I go on my own and then I just invite her to do these things or to ask, hey, what can I take off your plate today? Because I know you got a million things. So I can ensure you get a little time to go for a walk, go for a run, go for a bike ride, whatever will fill you up too, right? And so just asking those questions is huge, man. Keeping communication open.
And little things too. Don't discount the little things. There's the ongoing joke about the toilet seat. Like that actually says a lot. It does. And just little things that I can do because I work from home to make her life easier when she gets home from work. Like we don't have gender roles. We don't have them. I'll empty the dishwasher. I'll put the dishes in. Like if it needs done, I just do it.
Yep.
Like, don't think, oh, I'll leave that for her. Like, that's gonna create this just toxic environment. Y'all are like, we're a team. We have to figure stuff out as a team and figure things out together. Now, when it comes to leading, it's as simple as starting a conversation. Like, hey, you want to sit down and talk about our spending this last month and let's figure out some options. Like, yeah, it'd be easy for me to say, all right, we need to cut Netflix, HBO, Hulu, whatever the other ones are. We got to cut that and we got to cut back here. Yeah, I could come up with that stuff looking at the numbers, but it's not the right way to go. That's that drill sergeant approach.
That's right, man.
Figure it out together as a single unit.
It's so huge, man. I get called a simp probably once a week. I didn't know what a simp was until I started posting that I do the dishes. I fold laundry. Like if my wife needs help with stuff, why would I not help her out and try and make her day better? That seems pretty. Yeah, some of these guys on this alpha Twitter have this weird thing that like you're not a manly man and leading if you're doing dishes or doing that. And it's like I totally disagree with that. And I love what you said, how you can make her day easier and better. Why would you not? You create this cycle of guess what? When you help her with that, she wants to help you with this. And then it's like this beautiful cycle of, I feel like there's 2 or 3 of me every day because my wife is the first one to help me with a lot of things I'm doing or ask, what can I do for you here? And I'm trying to always reciprocate that. And so I think you just by asking those questions and starting that process, that's great leadership, man. That's huge. That's awesome.
Alpha Twitter, come at me.
Bro, it's wild. These guys are wild.
I mean,
I've got 900 of them blocked probably, so they can't come at me. Or I just mute them now, so they just shout into the abyss. They don't even know that I'm not seeing it.
I've walked the streets of Baghdad, Army, Infantry, Recon, Sniper. I can play that whole man card manliness if you want to compare notes. But at the same time, when I was in Iraq, so here's a total vulnerable. When I was in Iraq, when I was trying to sleep at night, trying to wind down on base, I would watch chick flicks, rom-coms, Sweet Home Alabama, because why? I had enough action, violence in my day-to-day life. I needed an escape.
Mm.
And I needed to just escape. Heck yeah, I've seen The Notebook. I actually own it on DVD.
That's the thing, man. I
But
don't understand these
yeah.
people. Again, that goes back to putting people in boxes, right? Like,
Yeah.
why can't you be like, dude, I'm running wind sprints till I feel like I'm gonna puke, and I'll
Mhm.
go to Mai Tai and box people and all, but then I
Mhm.
do that. Yeah, I also want to do the dishes and I brush my daughter's hair and I like,
Mhm. Yeah.
I read, I dress up and have tea parties with her. Why not? Like
Yeah.
it's wild to think you can't do
Mhm.
all of that.
My wife is a pediatric ICU nurse, and just not yesterday, but the day before, her patient had an emergency, and they literally did open heart surgery bedside, like not in the OR room because it was an emergency. She's dealing with that. She leaves the house at 6 a.m. She didn't go until 9:30 that night. And do you think I could take 5 minutes and take the dirty dishes from the sink and put them in the dishwasher? Does that make me not a man? Like, y'all, get out of here.
Yeah, that's wild, man. And yeah, that's shout out to your wife, man. That's a heroic thing she's doing too, man. Because there's not a lot of
Way
people that are,
smarter than me.
yeah, to do that.
Same
And well,
same
there's so much
situation.
I wanted to hit on,
Yeah.
like,
Mhm.
some of these other things, like, your best
Yeah.
habits and tips, but I feel like we're well over the hour mark. I try and keep these about an hour. Just make me a promise. Will you come back on the pod at some point and we'll get into just some other
Absolutely.
things too, man. But I do wrap up with, I have 5 rapid fire questions. So I
Oh,
will
you
get to
want to
learn
hit?
more about you here. These will be fun, and
We,
we'll fire into these, man. You might have mentioned this already, but what's your
yeah.
favorite book all time or your most impactful book?
Oh, so I'm gonna cheat and give you two.
Deal.
The first one is Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People. That book, I've learned so much about that book because I was introverted, I was shy, and I had to learn how to be outgoing and how to be social. That book is oh so powerful. But then also this one, The Total Money Makeover by Dave Ramsey.
Mm.
That is the book I've gifted the most. My parents gave that book to me when I was still in college, working my bachelor's. I'm like, hey, we never taught you about finances because we didn't know anything. So here, read this book. This is us teaching you. I'll tell you what, I read that book. I flew back from my sisters in Virginia back to Illinois, read that book on the flight, and that book changed my life. I graduated my bachelor's debt free, built up enough savings, able to move to Colorado. And then that same mindset, like getting a hold of my finances, has allowed me to step into opportunities, to create opportunities as they came
Mm.
because I had a handle on that. I wasn't trapped by debt. Oh man, like yeah, I could go rabbit hole, ramble, soapbox on that too. But yeah, those two books,
That's
those
huge,
two
man.
books.
It is wild when Annie tells me you're more introverted and high, because I'm like, I've only known kind of this
Yeah.
Dave guy who's
Mhm.
speaking to hundreds of people at conferences and like very open, with everything.
Mhm.
So it is funny. It's amazing how we can read these books and just learn so much. I don't know. I
Mhm.
go on a soapbox on that too, on how people don't read enough, man. It's crazy that
Yeah,
you have,
yeah.
you have access to all this stuff. Okay,
Mhm.
what's the biggest one thing you think men in particular need help with today, like middle-aged men, or what's the number one thing that men kind of come to you with, and you find that hey, guys, we could do better as a society for this?
So I don't know how I'm supposed to react to that. Does that mean I'm middle aged?
We're both the same age, so I'm calling myself out there too, man.
Oh man. Oh no. So it comes back to what we were talking about earlier about self-love and vulnerability. That to me is a game changer in relationships, in marriage, in work, in life, in happiness, is that being vulnerable, learning to be vulnerable with yourself, with your spouse, but also comes back, that vulnerability is going to lead you to self-love.
Mm,
And I mean, I think we unpacked that quite a bit earlier, but yeah, self-love and vulnerability.
that's awesome, man. I love that, and I love that you help people get there too with what you do every day, which is pretty amazing, man. So I love that. This is what I'm interested in, man. So let's say you're trying to hit a PR at the gym or doing something really high intensity. What's that song
Mhm.
you're going to put on right now that you're going to go to for that?
All right. So first thing that comes to mind is when I lift, I actually like to listen to podcasts. So if I'm going for PR, it's going to be the Team Never Quit podcast. Give them a tag so y'all can go subscribe. But then a song itself, um, it would be Blessed by Thomas Rhett. It's a love song.
I know that song. Yeah, great song.
People always are like, why do you work out to love songs? I'm going to squeeze in another story. So for our wedding, it was COVID, had to have a small wedding. We loved that because that saved our budget. A great excuse to have a real small wedding, right? So we got Spotify Premium for the month, the free trial, and made a playlist to play during our dinner after the ceremony. We canceled the subscription. I'm sorry, Spotify. But we still have the playlist. So now I have a playlist of all of our wedding songs that my wife and I picked out together.
That's awesome.
When I'm stressed out, when I'm just like, man, off my game, I turn that sucker on and it cheers me up. It takes me right back. It does.
Awesome. Music has that power, man. I think people need to be mindful of what music and what inputs you're putting in. That's a good point because, man, I listen to 99% Jesus music and it just, it radiates through me, man. Like, I feel like, yeah, it's a big cheat code, man. So
it is. It's all in the state of mind, and you can cheat and you can change your mind. You can rewire it.
That's exactly right, man. I love that. What's your favorite date night with your wifey, man? Let's say you guys got a big Saturday night coming up. What are you planning for wifey on a date night?
We do have a big Saturday night coming up. My mother-in-law's in town to watch the puppy,
Nice.
and she's off on Saturday. So what we are going to do for our date night, probably about 4:30 early, because we like to go to bed early. We're going to go for a walk. We're going to go for a walk, and then we're going to go get ice cream and sit outside and just have some ice cream. Alibi, dairy-free ice cream and gluten-free ice cream. That's a whole nother episode we can dive into. But yeah, just going for a walk. That's what we do because you talk. You are present with each other, walking, talking, holding hands.
Yes.
That's our favorite activity. It's simple. Some say it sounds boring, but I don't care what they say.
Dude,
they're not on my list of people whose opinion matters to me.
I'm 100. Me and my wife did a date night last night. We took a 2-hour walk and then we got it, man. That's exactly what we did. Like,
yeah,
it's a cheat code, man. You said it best. You're connected, holding hands. You're right there, present with each other. You can talk about these big things, little things, joke around, flirt a little bit. It's the greatest. I think every married couple should take a couple mile walk every week, man. It's great.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I love
Absolutely.
That, well, this one, man, your future plans, again, I'm going to put every link Dave does below. We're going to link his website, his coaching, his books, everything he does below. So check those out, guys. He's a fantastic, phenomenal human, as you can obviously see, impacting a lot of people. But what's kind of your future plans or your vision, moving into 2023? What do you got for us, man?
Ooh. So what I'm going to do in the very near future, once this episode goes live, is I'm going to listen to it. I'm going to write down notes of all the things we didn't get to that we said we're going to get to. And I'm going to come back for part 2. That's what I'm going to do.
Thank you, man. Because I think we have 15 things, right?
Right. Absolutely. So my future plans actually, this is my first year full-time in my own business. I've had my legal entity for years, but in 2020, I crafted a plan. It's like, I need to actually build a business. So I hustled and last year built it big enough to go full-time for myself. So now I'm in that next stage of growth to where I want to be intentional about my growth. It's time to start bringing on more team members. I've got a small team. But I need to start bringing on team members to let go of some of the day-to-day operations, some of the tasks, so I can go do other work that I want to do, but also so I can do non-work activities, like spend time with my wife, go visit my family more. I've been so busy in the hustle bustle of work that I haven't had as much of a life outside of work as I wanted, which actually, funny enough, that was the reason I wanted to build my own business, is so I could do lifestyle design, create a job, a career around the kind of life I wanted to live. And so I've got the foundation built. So now it's time to go get to work building the other part of it. I love that. Wasn't very clear. I kind of rambled there, but
no, that's actually really clear to me, especially because I think I struggled with that early, where I felt like I joke now that like the first 6 months of my business when I quit, I quit working 40 hours a week to work 75 hours a week on my business, but then you grow and you get to, point where you want to get to. And then for me, it's now saying no to a lot of things too. Right. And just realizing, hey, my optimal life is I want to spend a couple hours every morning with my wife and boys walking to the park and playing. I want to be able to pick my daughter up from school every day. I want to be able to, so, you just optimize your business around your life. And to me, that's the ultimate victory, man. Like I don't need to be driving a sports. I don't even want a sports car, man. It's a headache, like
Yeah.
I want to
Right.
time, and so I know you'll build that. That'll be fun to watch you build. You are everywhere, man. It is crazy. Like, again, we were kind of saying before the podcast, but when you are creating a lot of content, you're not watching, but every time I see what you're doing, you're in a different state, man. You're talking to like groups of people, you're flying out to this conference, stuff like that. So it'll be fun to watch you grow. And then also kind of as you grow and expand and get more opportunities, well, now, hey, I'm going to set boundaries here and only work here and things like that. So that'll be fun to watch, man. I'm just a huge fan too. So I appreciate you coming on, brother.
Hey, I'm a fan over here, and together is better. Hey, we got to lift each other up. All of us listeners lift each other up. The more people you help, the better this world will be. And in turn, the more folks will help. Yeah. I'm taking us down another rabbit hole.
That's a cheat code to life, man. That's right. You're absolutely right, man. Yeah, I have to wrap this up because I do get to go pick up my daughter here in a few minutes. But I will say that, that what you touched on there is, when I first came into coaching too, I had a mindset of like, I even asked my first coach, Zach, like, why are you helping me? Because I'm gonna potentially take other clients. And he's like, dude, we have a network of 4 billion, 5 billion, 6 billion people that we want to help. Like, I hope you take 200 of them a year, like I hope we just help more people. That's the ultimate point. Right. And so I love your mindset. I love the way that you go about approaching life, man. And I just think you're a great human being, brother. And I thank you for all you do, man.
Hey, right back at you. Right back at you. I'm lifting you up as well.
Give the viewers a last word, man. What do you want to tell the people out there?
Ooh, all right. It's going to come back to, it's all in the state of mind. It's wisdom from my dad. It is oh so powerful. It is all in the state of mind.
Shout out to Dave's dad. What's your dad's name?
Yes. Larry Closson, legend.
Larry Closson, you are the legend, brother. Thanks for imparting the wisdom on to Dave. He can now share it with everybody else, man.
Absolutely. All right, listeners, I'll see y'all on social media.
That's right.
Go pick up your daughter now, Tyler.
I will. And again, guys, I'm going to link everything Dave does below, but you guys go bless up. Like Dave said, be kind to others, be kind to yourself today, man. And let's go change the world one act of kindness at a time. You guys have a great day, man. Thanks for tuning in.
Absolutely. Take care, everyone.